This is the time of the show where we're going to plug the Civic Media app. Wausau, Wisconsin Rapids, Richland Center, Amory, Madison, Waukesha, Oshkosh, and we're still growing.
What should we call this radio station from Rebecca? And she came up with, what about Radio or No?
Radio or No?
Radio or No. Welcome to Radio or No. Well, what do you think?
Moving Wisconsin forward, one joke at a time. This is Kristin Bry with As Goes Wisconsin.
Yada, yada, yada.
Hello, Wisconsin!
Hello, Wisconsin. Welcome to As Goes Wisconsin and our weekly segment on Thursdays at noon. But it will be moving, we should say, not next week, the week after. We will be doing this at 11 on Thursdays instead of 12 because the show will be from 10 to noon. So at 12, the show will not be on. But for this week and next week at noon on Thursdays, it is Public Cervix announcement with Dr. Kristin Lyerly. How are you, Dr. Lyerly?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm great. Well, I guess for this announcement, we're not going to spend a lot of time on it, but I have my 20-week scan today. So pregnancy news there. So I'm sure we'll have other questions for next week to talk about on the show.
How are you feeling about this? This can be kind of an anxiety-provoking time, but also very exciting.
I am excited.
Mm-hmm.
There's nerves, but it's hard for me emotionally. It is hard to now read. It's always been hard, but it's especially hard now to ever read any of the stories that are happening to women who have wanted pregnancies, who have fetal anomalies and are being forced to carry them to term. Like I read one this week and I was like, I just totally lost it. So yeah, that's like a very real thing. But overall, I'm very excited as far as like getting new pictures and stuff like that. Cause 99%, right? Like very, very high percentage, everything's fine. But yeah, so that is a very real thing.
And you've done the genetic testing beforehand, so you've got even more evidence that everything is going to be good. So just, getting through today and seeing this beautiful, amazing little baby is going to be
little baby.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
that's
little LJ.
Yes, little Jane. As little Jane as Jane's wants to call her. The amount of people who have requested that she be named after them, including men, it's not a short list.
That is kind of cool though, like choosing a more masculine feeling name for your daughter. It's kind of a trendy thing.
I've always liked that. I have a friend who named her daughter Georgia and they call her George. And I think it's very cute. And so I like the boy nicknames for girls. So we will see. But similar but different. Our first bit of news from this week, as far as some research or developments on breast milk, but not in humans yet. So it's funny. I just love the mice because a month or so ago, we talked about cocaine addiction and the studies they're doing on mice in cocaine addiction. So we had a whole segment on coked up mice that was interesting, fascinating, and hilarious. But researchers have discovered a molecule in mouse breast milk that helps shift newborn mouse heart cells from using simple sugars for energy to fatty acids, a requirement for a healthy heart development. So what does that research tell us about potentially breastfeeding for humans?
Nothing.
Really?
It really doesn't. It sounds so interesting, but it's mice. So mouse studies are really important. They're how we learn a lot of stuff early on and how we build a foundation for studying human medicine. But we have to be really careful about translating that information directly to human medicine. Right.
Okay.
So, we, in general, the way that we think about breastfeeding versus formula feeding, in general, we always say breast is best. But there are so many different things to take into consideration when you're thinking about how you're going to feed your newborn. Is breastfeeding possible for you? Is it physically possible for you? Is it emotionally possible? Are you a good pair with your baby? Are things going well? Is it too stressful? There are so many other factors. Do you have the time? Do you have a job that's going to allow you to take the time away from work so that you can go and pump every 3 hours, which is really what you need to do to keep your supply up? So for some moms, breast isn't best, but ideally breast milk is the best thing for babies nutritionally. And this is another thing, this mouse study is another little piece in the giant information pile that there are certain things that are helpful in breast milk.
Because I think I've heard both. There's breast is best, but also even more so, fed is best.
Yes. And I think sometimes as new moms, we get really caught up in this, I have to breastfeed my baby or I'm a failure as a mom.
Yeah.
And that is so absolutely not the truth. What you have to figure out is what works best for you. What are the options? What is the best thing for you and your baby and your family in the context of your own life?
And Dr. Lyerly, I think too that there's just the assumption that every woman is able to produce enough breast milk to feed her infant, and that just isn't the case. Like you said, there can be problems with getting the baby to latch, right, or suckle, or and again, even just a production problem. Yes, they're built for that, but they don't all work the same.
100%. Some women just don't have the ability to produce, especially if you've had breast surgery in the past. You may not be able to produce. If you have inverted nipples, it might be painful. It might be just a grueling experience. So, why put yourself through that when there are so many other things, so many other changes happening in your life? Really just think about what the best thing is for you and for your baby, and don't don't put yourself in a situation where you can't be that perfect mom according to somebody else's standards.
Well,
But
yeah.
before we move on, though, I just want to point out the way they did this study was they had two groups of mice and they fed them different diets. And then they looked at how their offspring survived. And what they had to do is they had to actually go in and they had to like milk these little mice. And I just had this like wonderful vision of being that lab person who had to go in and like milk the mouse.
If you can milk what is the meet the parents line? It's like you can milk anything that has nipples.
I mean,
He's trying to milk his cat.
That's right. Robert De Niro, wasn't it? He was trying to milk the cat.
This just makes me think, though, about, boy, the mice are going to take over one day and they're going to get back at us for all of these experiments that we've been doing on them for decades and decades and decades.
Yeah, instead of Planet of the Apes, Planet of the Mice, and it's just like revenge
They're
is
coming for ya.
All right, so another piece of news that I saw, and I've heard mixed things as far as now we all are so encouraged to wear sunscreen all the time, both for vanity reasons. For those of us who lack melanin, we don't age as well. And so wear sunscreen for wrinkles and stuff, but even more so for health reasons as far as skin cancer. But not all sunscreens are created equally. And so what should people, as summer is coming, what should people be watching out for when it comes to like what to look for in sunscreen that is not only effective from like protecting you against UV rays, but also doesn't have things in it that are also not good for you?
Because you're right, all sunscreens are not created equally, and some sunscreens actually contain dangerous ingredients like oxybenzone. It can cause skin reactions. It can disrupt hormones. This is a chemical that has been shown to cause lower testosterone levels in boys. It's been related to breast cancer and maybe even endometriosis. And because of these concerns, several European countries have banned it out of concern for harm to aquatic life. The amount of this chemical allowed in the US is up to 6% within our sunscreens, but in Europe, they're recommending only about 2%. So we have a real disparity in between what the FDA in the US is allowing and what's happening in Europe. This is a dangerous chemical, and you should avoid oxybenzone if at all possible.
And is there any, if you don't know, I'll maybe do some research for this, but is there specific brands that are more likely to have this versus, I'm assuming that the brands that don't have this, I'm going to go out on a limb and say they're more expensive. And so some of the cheaper brands at Walgreens may have it.
Well, this isn't the only one. I mean, there are others that behave in a similar way. So there are some easy rules of thumb to follow. One, a mineral sunscreen is likely going to be better than a chemical sunscreen. So
Okay.
stick to the sunscreens that have more natural ingredients and fewer ingredients, and you'll be better off. Also, barriers are actually more effective than sunscreen. So if you can wear like a long sleeve shirt, a swim shirt, or a hat, those are really an important piece to your sun protection program. And then smart sun exposure. Don't go out when the sun is the brightest during the day. Try to limit your sun exposure to times where the sun isn't quite so intense. That will make a difference. There are a couple ingredients too that are considered safe. The FDA has approved them and does call them safe. Zinc oxide and titanium dioxide are both considered safe. Maybe we can post a link to the Environmental Working Group's review of sunscreens. That would be really helpful because they do recommend particular types of sunscreens as well as particular brands.
That's good to know. That is good to know. It's just this is always like the dumbest health advice that I am the most stubborn about because I love being tan.
I
Like,
do too.
I just look better. You need to wear less makeup. You feel better, but it's also like, well, I also don't want to deal with skin cancer 30 years from now.
And we need vitamin D. And that's how
Yes.
we make vitamin D is through exposure to sunlight. So it really is a fine balance. I remember in medical school asking one of my dermatology teachers, like, so what am I supposed to do? Go in the sun because we don't get enough vitamin D up here in Wisconsin where it's dark half the year, or not go in the sun? And he was like, yeah, you have to make an individual decision for yourself. And really, I mean, that's what it comes down to. What kind of skin do you have? How great is your risk? And what are your options as far as sunscreen products that are out there? One other word of caution, the sprays, not good. They don't provide good protection. Also, people inhale them and they can cause lung damage.
See, and I loved those too because they're so much easier to put on. You're just bursting my bubble, doctor.
I'm sorry. And this is
All right,
going to
well,
be really important for you when you have a little tiny baby.
Yeah, I know. All right. Well, we have more questions to answer when we come back. If you have a question for Dr. Lyerly, 844-967-2789. That's 844-96-PARTY. We will be right back.
I've got it bad, and I got it good. Doctor, give me the news. I've got a bad case of loving you. No pill's gonna cure my ear. I got a bad case of loving you, loving you. No pill's gonna cure my ear. I got a bad case of loving you, loving you.
It's time to have some fun and make a difference, Waukesha County. Attend the 2023 Habitat for Humanity of Waukesha Dream Builders Gala on June 9th at 6 p.m. in the Dominica Park neighborhood. Help celebrate the accomplishments of last year while helping to create, preserve, and promote affordable housing in our area. Enjoy an upscale barbecue, live entertainment, and the chance to make a real difference in the lives of local families. Register now at habitatwaukesha.org/events. That's habitatwaukesha.org/events. Let's build a brighter future together.
From the kennel to the coop, whatever the season, Fleet Farm has everything to keep your animals happy and healthy. From training your pup to sit season, to mastering those retrieval skills season. From clipping your horse for competition season, to keeping the backyard birds well-fed season. And of course, loving your pets like family season. There's a reason people say, if Fleet Farm doesn't have it, you don't need it. Because we have it all. Fleet Farm, built for real life.
Weather brought to you by FreshFin, bringing you a fresh and healthy fast casual experience. Seafood, chicken, pork, or tofu. The bowl options at FreshFin are endless. Check them out at the corners of Brookfield, Bayshore Mall, East Side, and 3rd Ward, or online at freshfin.com.
You are never far away from your favorite local radio station. We're always streaming on TuneIn and the Civic Media app, and we invite you to get social with us by following our network's Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook pages. Want even more? civicmedia.us.
Here's your updated forecast on the Shaw. Highs level off around 62 this afternoon. Under clear skies, easterly winds 8 to 15 miles an hour. Clear skies again tonight. Lows level off around 39. Daytime highs approaching 69. Tomorrow, ample sunshine expected. Bright sunshine expected Saturday, with daytime highs approaching 74. 77 Sunday. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Derek Height. Currently, it's 54 degrees.
Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. I am Kristin Bry. She is Jane Matnair, and this is Public Cervix Announcement with Dr. Kristin Lyerly, who joins us every Thursday to answer questions from the news and the headlines, or listener questions, or my questions about women's health. And we always love to hear. So convenient. This is like, who needs to see my doctor once a month when I have you?
You do.
I still do. And so, but if you have any questions for us that you would like us to answer, 844-967-2789, or you can always email us if you're listening to this as a podcast at asgoeswisconsin@civicmedia.us. So the next question or topic, seems I have to say I haven't found myself on boric acid TikTok, like that side of TikTok, but apparently it exists. And I've only seen one video ever about suggesting a use for boric acid, and it was like in replacement of scented soaps or douching or anything as far as like women and their natural odor. And it was suggesting boric acid, which I had never heard of before. So I saw that video, but apparently there's thousands of videos now that are trending on TikTok about this substance. So I guess first, what is it?
It's boric acid. It is just, it's a substance. It's a powder that they put into capsules, and you can get it without a prescription from Amazon or Walgreens or wherever. When I was training 10 years ago, nobody was using boric acid. There was no TikTok. So there was no TikTok. And so I would see, people coming in with vaginal symptoms, discharge, odor, whatever. And we would do like a standard workup. We'd do an exam, we'd get some swabs, we would diagnose things. We only really used boric acid if other treatments failed. But now boric acid is a first line for many people who either don't have access to a doctor or someone who can help them with their problem, or they're wanting to try something different or something that they believe is more natural first. It's generally safe as long as you don't swallow it. It goes in the vagina. So it's not a pill that you take. You put it in your vagina. Don't swallow.
Don't swallow it. So I guess what are some of the different, what can it be used for? What problems could you be having that you would want to maybe think about using this for?
Generally, when people are having a problem, it's typically like discharge, itching, odor, and it could be so many different things. It could be a sexually transmitted infection. It could be something as simple as a yeast infection. It could be bacterial vaginosis. There are a number of different reasons why you can have these symptoms. So it's really hard to diagnose it without somebody helping you and without a test. So if your symptoms aren't terrible and you want to give it a shot, it's reasonable. The only thing that I always love taking care of my patients. And when it comes to sensitive issues like this, I always want to make sure that they have the right treatment for the right thing. Because if you have an undiagnosed sexually transmitted infection, it can cause not only problems now, and you can, give it to other people, but it can cause problems down the road with fertility. It can cause problems with actually like long-term health. If you have, syphilis is making a giant comeback in this country, in this state.
Not the comeback we wanted.
Not the comeback we wanted.
Jeez.
And it causes huge problems down the road if it's undiagnosed and untreated, and it's very treatable. So that's why I love taking care of my patients. And if somebody has a problem, I want them to be able to come in and make sure we're doing the right thing. Having said that, if you want to give boric acid a shot and it does the trick for you, that's reasonable. But if it's not working for you, please get a diagnosis so it can be treated appropriately.
This just sounds to me like the latest fad. It was St. John's wort is going to cure everything. The magical acai berry will make you live forever.
I think it's pronounced acai.
I don't care. It's the same bogus claim about a berry. So I'm always skeptical about this stuff, Dr. Lyerly. And I would rather people go to a doctor.
Yeah, but this is a real treatment. I mean, we really have used boric acid often for infections that we haven't been able to treat with traditional medications. So it's the real deal. But you're right. The diagnosis is so important so that you know that you have the right treatment so that you don't suffer those consequences down the road.
Well, it's so interesting because we spent the first half hour of yesterday's show talking about how many more people are skipping seeing their doctor or healthcare for cost reasons. And so, sometimes I think some of these trending medical things on TikTok, they're like, well, let me try to see if I can figure this out between the internet, ordering something on Amazon, and this piece of advice that I got before I have to go see a doctor, pay it out of my deductible and stuff. And so at least for this topic, boric acid, as long as you don't swallow it, probably isn't going to hurt you.
I can't even say that. No, okay. Because if you have something else going on that's serious and you're treating it with boric acid instead of the proper treatment, it could hurt you.
Okay.
Please see your doctor.
Yeah. Is there telehealth that you recommend when it comes? I mean, I know you want to see your patients, but as far as ever things, have you heard of anything that's been popping up for when you have a yeast infection and you need something that you don't necessarily need to go into your doctor that's easily diagnosable just by like these telltale symptoms? Are there starting to be telehealth options that you think are reputable for people to turn to that they can just do from an internet connection versus at home?
I haven't specifically seen it for this. I have seen some telehealth options where if you have a history of something and you feel fairly confident that this is the same thing, like some people get recurrent yeast infections. If they're like, yep, this is another yeast infection, then it's reasonable to treat it with what works for you. But if not, then again, you need an exam. You need
an actual doctor. All right. Well, Dr. Lyerly is going to stick around, but we're going to switch gears from medicine to politics because there was an article that dropped about you last week. So we're going to talk about a different part of your career that you might be exploring next year, which may include a congressional run. So stick around. We're going to talk about that when we come back. This is As Goes Wisconsin.
Another thousand dreams. Doctor, can't you see I'm burning?
Floor at Waukesha Skateland. Set without the rest skates. Know what I mean? This is the Shaw. WAUK.
CBS News brief. House Speaker McCarthy says talks with the White House are going on about the debt ceiling today. Top House Democrat Hakeem Jeffries on his view of what Republicans want.
Devastating cuts to Medicaid, devastating cuts to nutrition, devastating cuts to education, devastating cuts to public safety.
CBS's Chris Van Cleve is in the Chicago area getting a sense of early holiday weekend travel.
We're going about 5 miles an hour. So I think those 37 million people that AAA expects to be driving for Memorial Day are all on the Kennedy.
President Biden set to announce he's picking Air Force General C.Q. Brown Jr. to serve as the next chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. CBS News military analyst Jeff McCausland.
Brown's a very experienced fighter pilot, commissioned from ROTC at Texas Tech University. He served as a fighter pilot with over 3,000 flying hours, about 130 combat hours.
CBS News Brief. I'm Steve Kathan.
Looking for more local programming? Check out our website, civicmedia.us, to see our entire lineup.
For Civic Media News, I'm Terry Bell. Here's what you need to know. A new audit faults Wisconsin's Department of Health Services for mismanaging COVID-19 grants and the state's ventilator program. About a third of the grants the auditors reviewed lacked proof that applicants needed the money. Health Secretary Kirsten Johnson says her agency had to make decisions under highly unusual circumstances. The 2025 NFL Draft will be the biggest event ever held in Green Bay. Packers president Mark Murphy says the biggest worry is having enough hotel rooms.
maybe having some cruise ships. And we've had some discussions also with Amtrak about running train service up from Milwaukee.
Another concern might be the weather in April. Murphy sounds like the NFL would actually be happy if it snows. In sports, the Brewers host San Francisco tonight. I'm Terry Bell, and this is Civic Media News.
Images are everywhere, on iPads, cell phones, or the cloud. In fact, everywhere but where you can find them. Mike Crivello Camera and Imaging Center has the solution to this problem. They're called pictures, and we print them right from our website. And you order them online at MikeCrivellos.com. And they look magnificent in your photo album.
Mike Crivello's world is a wonderful world of camera.
It's not a picture till it's printed.
If you love to spend time in the kitchen, elevate your cooking game with a pantry full of premium hemp products from Mary Jane's Hemp Shop in Waukesha. Mary Jane sells flights of Himalayan sea salts, raw sugar flights, local raw honey, and just in time for summer, a variety of salt rubs for meat and grilling. Not sure how to use the products in your own kitchen? Check out Mary Jane's YouTube channel for ideas and recipes. Elevate your cooking game at Mary Jane's Hemp Shop, 335 West Main Street, Waukesha, or online at maryjanespantry.shop.
This Memorial Day weekend, the employees of Champions Pub invite you to join them in pausing to remember the price all veterans have paid to keep us free. Check out Champions Pub at 2417 North Bartlett Avenue or go to www.championspub.com and have a great holiday.
Feeling down, anxious, depressed? You are not alone. According to the World Health Organization, approximately 280 million people have depression, but the majority never receive treatment. At WellPoint Care Network, they can help. Their outpatient clinic staff are both qualified and caring, not to mention highly trained in partnering with you on your healing journey. Make an appointment today at wellpointcare.org. They serve all ages, infants, children, and adults. Both in-person and virtual services are available. Learn more at wellpointcare.org. This salute has been brought to you by Current.
As Goes Wisconsin, I am Kristen Bry. She is Jane Matnair, and we are still joined by Dr. Kristin Lyerly. Although we are not going to be, we might, but we're pivoting away from answering questions about health to you answering questions about this article that got published in Milwaukee Journal Sentinel last week, written by my buddy Bill Glauber. Democrat Kristin Lyerly weighs 2024 run against Green Bay Republican U.S. Representative Mike Gallagher. So are the rumors true? Are you thinking about this?
I 100% am thinking about this. And it's all related to what we're doing here. Yeah. It's all related to taking care of each other. It's all related to making sure that people have access to the information and the services that they need to be able to live their lives. When you think about healthcare, it's not just about you going to see your doctor. It's being able to drink clean water and having access to quality, healthy food and education, a good public education, all of those things. I mean, responsible gun ownership, all of these things come together to ensure that we are able to live healthy lives. So as a doctor, this just seems so logical at this time in this place, Kristen, don't you think?
Well, as someone who is every once in a while asked to run, no, it doesn't, because I have no interest in running, because I'm like, it's a lot. It's a lot to take on. It's a lot. I mean, we're friends, and I see the brunt of which you bear online of people calling you a baby killer and all of the things, because you are so outspoken and adamant and an advocate for access to abortion and to healthcare. And so that only increases with a high profile campaign like this. And so yes, it does make sense as an idealistic world of course, let's have more doctors who know what they're talking about when we have politicians making decisions about our health all the time. But yet, as your friend and as someone who knows you, it's that's a big undertaking if you actually take it on, because you've run once before for for assembly, right?
Yeah, I ran for assembly in 2020, but it's never been about a seat. So when I ran in 2020, it was COVID. It was April, And we had to go to the polls, even though it was the very early days of COVID. When remember what it was like? Like there was no vaccine, there was no treatment. We didn't even know, do we need masks? Do we not need masks? How far apart do we need to stand? There was so much fear and so many questions. And our legislature sent us to the polls. And I thought, well, if our legislature is going to be so irresponsible and truly not take care of the people who elected them to serve them, then we need new representatives. So that's why I ran in 2020. I see the same thing happening now. Our Congress is not understanding. They're not working together. They're not responding to the needs of the people. I know what people need. I talk to people all the time. That's why I'm outspoken about abortion information. Yeah, it's hard to talk about because we've got this political definition of abortion that's very black and white. But the truth is, abortion is healthcare. Abortion care is integrated into contraception care, fertility care. I mean, we were just talking about it with regards to your own pregnancy, Kristin. I mean, this is such a fundamental part of what we are dealing with every single day as women, as families, as communities in this country. And if we're not able to get it done as people, I've been doing a ton of advocacy work in the OBGYN realm. We can only do so much there. So if there's an opportunity to be able to do it on a different level, maybe it's that time.
And Dr. Lyerly, I personally think that the next thing that the anti-abortion faction is going to go after is contraception. They're going to want to ban all contraception.
Yeah, I think so too. We've already seen that. So that would not be a surprise.
And so I guess, so like logistically, if you were to do this, what do you feel like you learned from running in 2020 that applies to this as far as like how to approach a campaign, where to even start, and like when do you feel like you need to like be all in versus I'm still weighing my options?
Yeah, that's the tough part. As I'm so involved with so many different community things, locally, regionally, nationally, that it's hard to tuck those things and figure out, where I am most effective.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I've really learned since 2020 is that this is not about a goal. It's not about an office. It's about bringing people together. It's about problem solving. And as soon as you've got one problem solved, you've got other problems to think about. And so many of these problems coalesce into bigger issues and bigger solutions. So it's really about figuring out who your allies are, who the people are who agree with you and want to work together, and how can you cut through the noise and really make a difference on behalf of the people that you are elected to serve. So I've got a lot of those people already on board because I've been doing this work just as a citizen. I think it would be a fairly easy transition to make it happen. So that's what I'm weighing.
And so it's interesting because this is a seat that was unopposed in 2022. There was no Democratic candidate. And granted, I think when you think about Mike Gallagher, probably one of the more, at least he comes off. Like if you don't follow politics closely, I think he comes off as one of the more reasonable, moderate of the Wisconsin Republicans. Whether he is or not is probably a different topic. But he's one of the few people that's getting thrown out there, whether he's going to actually do it or not, as someone who could be a strong challenger to Tammy Baldwin. So he is a tough challenger. On top of that, there is a gerrymandered district. So are any of the actual politics of it making it like part of the calculation for you? Or is this like, I either see the value in doing this and running and doing it because of what you just said, because of community, because of information? Or is there also like, let's see if the maps change before 2024. Let's see if Mike Gallagher runs and there's no incumbent. Like, are any of the politics of it weighing on your decision?
Yeah, everything. So it's an R+10 district, which means that it tends to be much more Republican than Democratic because of the way the lines are drawn. But Democrats have served here in the past, and I think it's entirely possible. What we've seen in the recent past, I mean, I don't know if you remember what happened in April, but Judge Janet won up here. And she won in a big way. And so we're seeing that trend. We're seeing women and people who care about healthcare, who care about women, who care about families. They may not be shouting, but they're voting.
Yeah.
And, let's be very honest. Mike Gallagher is a ladder climber. He is very interested in China, and China's an important topic. Like it has been for a very long time, but it's not the thing that keeps people up at night. People they stay up at night because of the economy. They stay up at night because they don't know if they're going to be able to make ends meet. They don't know what the future looks like for them. They don't know if they're going to be able to have access to health care. They don't know if they are going to be able to go to school and be safe. And there are so many other things that are affecting them in their daily lives. And, Mike Gallagher just doesn't really get that because he's not really one of us. I'm a 6th generation Wisconsinite. I was born in this district. My whole family lives in Wisconsin. I get Wisconsinites. I care deeply about Wisconsinites. And if I do choose to do this, that will be the reason why.
So I'm going to ask this delicately. Well, and I won't ask it delicately because I think about this a fair amount as far as, because you've run before, you've not actually served in government at all, right?
Right.
And so we see this sometimes with doctors, sometimes with businessmen or women, people who have an expertise in their career and obviously bring something to the table. But as far as actual elected office or like understanding how things like the government actually works, I don't want to say skip in line, but you know what I mean? Like they go to higher office than starting at school board and working your way up. And so do you feel like that is, we have mutual friends who have who are serving in the assembly and the state senate now. Like, do you think there's something to be gained by starting at a smaller office? Or do you think that this is like a very logical step as far as like running for Congress despite having not served in government previously?
In this particular seat, the last handful of people haven't served in local government before they served in Congress.
Interesting.
So, and that's like the 8th congressional district. But I think that actually it's becoming more and more common. People bring different experiences to the table, different levels of knowledge, different talents. And I think that's part of the beauty of it. You can learn all the process stuff. You can figure the rest of that out, but it's really that what your background brings. Like me as a doctor, sitting in exam rooms, talking with people, working in the greater healthcare organizations and understanding how hospitals work together with doctors, work together with insurance companies, and how that's just like a bad combo. Like it's just not working in the United States. I think that's incredibly valuable. Having served on a school board or something like that, sure, that is a different set of experiences that will prepare you for a higher office. But I think we are collectively, we are our experiences, and our experiences are what get us to this point and what propel us beyond this point.
So you're saying if you can, if you can survive medical school, you can probably figure out your freshman year in Congress.
Medical school residency with 4 kids under 10. I think I can do pretty much anything.
You had 4 kids under 10 while you were doing your residency?
When I was an intern, my youngest was like 9 months old and my oldest was 9 years old. Yeah, it was.
Oh my gosh.
It was tough. But it was what we had to do. And you find yourself in these stages of life where you just have to get it done. You do the work that you know you have to do because you know that there is something at the end of that tunnel and you want to get there. And, here I am. I would have never pictured myself. I did get a master's in public health between my residency and medical school, knowing that this was an area that I was really interested in, and public health and public service are so deeply intertwined. So, I think this has probably always been in the back of my head, wanting to do something bigger on a bigger scale. And here we are.
Yeah.
Dr. Lyerly, as you consider the possibility of running against Representative Mike Gallagher, what does your family say? What do your 4 sons and your husband say about this?
Well, my 4 sons are 14 to 24, and they all pitched in during my assembly race. When I first asked them, it took none of them longer than like 10 seconds to say, yes, but you should do this. Yeah. And as we've talked more about it, like these are the responsibilities and this is how much time away it would take. And this is what I would expect from you because this is all hands on deck. They're completely on board. They're excited about the potential. My third son, Lindsay, who has a girl's name, by the way. We were talking about boys' names and girls' names earlier. Lindsay will be voting for the first time. He's going to be 18 in June.
Wow.
So he's really excited because he wants to get his friends out to vote. I mean,
Yeah.
how meaningful is that? And they know me better than anybody. So they know that I carry the issues that they care about, and they are excited to get out and help to promote some of the things that we are going to be able to do if we decide to take this step.
Are all four of them in Wisconsin?
Yeah, they're all
wow.
here in Green
How'd you
Bay
get them
right
all
now.
to stay? I feel like even if you get one, my mom would have been happy for a while if one of us out of two would have stayed. She's happy I'm back, but all four are here. That's pretty cool.
My family, man, we just stay here. I'm 6 generations. There's a town named after my great-great-great-grandfather just south of here. No joke.
Which one?
Charlesburg.
Charlesburg.
Cool.
There's a little supper club and a church.
That's amazing. All right. Well, we will certainly have to talk about this as it progresses. But until next week, when we come back next week, we will do Public Cervix announcement again with Dr. Kristin Lyerly. And as always, if you have any questions for her, send us an email, asgoeswisconsin@civicmedia.us. Thank you so much for spending time with us today.
Oh, ladies, it is just such a joy. And have an amazing Memorial Day weekend. It's going to be unreal. The weather is perfect.
Perfect. All right. Well, when we come back, a legend has passed. So we'll share some Tina Turner stories. But for now,
Been serving up mouth-watering goodness to the people of Milwaukee since 1931. Their famous secret award-winning chili recipe is the same as it was back then and a local treasure. From lunch to dinner to late-night breakfast, Real Chili has you covered. And now you can bring the Real Chili to your next party, tailgate, wedding, or office gathering with their unbeatable catering options. And don't forget about their Real Love Party Packs, perfect for small groups, and pick up from their 2 convenient locations, downtown Milwaukee and near Marquette University campus. Visit them at realchili.com. That's realchili.com.
Love the outdoors, but lack the gear to explore it? River West Outdoor Pro Shop has everything you need. Rock climbing, snowshoeing, kayaking, and more. Don't know what you need? Come visit the shop located in the basement of Milwaukee Turners at 1034 North Velar Phillips Avenue. Their friendly staff will help you find what you need. For questions and hours, call 414-272-1733, extension 16. 414-272-1733, extension 16.
Drive safely, Wisconsin. Highway workers are out on the road. Help them out. Slow down, stay focused, and eliminate distractions. Work zone safety. It's everyone's responsibility.
Sponsored by the Wisconsin DOT.
Moving Day, a walk for Parkinson's, is happening around the country. Together we can unite in the fight against Parkinson's disease in a safe but exciting and fun way. So let's get moving. Join the Parkinson's Foundation to learn more and register at movingdaywalk.org.
Here's your updated forecast on the Shaw. Sunny skies this afternoon with highs around 62. East winds 8 to 15 miles an hour. Clear skies tonight, lows around 39. Ample sunshine expected again tomorrow. Highs level off around 69. Clear skies Saturday with highs around 74. 77 Sunday. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Derek Height. Currently, it's 54 degrees.
If you're hanging out
Prisoner of your love. Entangled
Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. I am Kristen Bry. She is Jane Matnair, and we would be remiss not to spend a little time talking about the legend who has passed, Tina Turner. And man, I was watching yesterday her 1996 60 Minutes interview started getting circulated again.
Right.
And I was watching it, and even at that point in 1996, she had already been living in Europe for 10 years.
Yeah.
And so she died yesterday in her house in
Switzerland.
Switzerland, not Sweden. Where she was a citizen. And watching it, I didn't because I think she's considered an icon here, but Europe loved and loves her. And so this was going on 30 years ago, her talking about how much she's been embraced in Europe. And I guess I didn't realize that aspect of her career, of like the whole European part of it.
Yeah, she found a home there, and the acceptance and I think America got around to embracing Tina, but I think they embraced her much more quickly in Europe after she went out on her own.
But in the 80s, like when she came, like The Best and Private Dancer and all that stuff, like she still had, without Ike,
right,
a lot of success here.
Oh, without a doubt. But again, I think again, in her solo career, she might have had more support in Europe before it grew here. And that could be where part of her affection comes from.
Yeah. And it's always interesting when we, people who haven't thought of in so long necessarily, because they've been out of the public eye, and then you hear that they've been sick and they've been dealing with stuff, and then they pass and you're like, that sucks.
But she was 83, and what remarkable life she led.
Yeah.
And lived through and survived, and then went on to thrive.
Yeah.
She had a whole second life after she left Ike. She had a whole second career, a whole second life. And after what she went through with him, you just have to have major props for Tina Turner.
And how much of that was public knowledge? Like when she was living through that with him, how much was that because I feel like we think about another icon of like Whitney Houston, that was an abusive relationship, but it was a drug-riddled relationship.
Right.
With and the skepticism and worry that people had publicly for Whitney Houston and her marriage. Was that similar with Ike and Tina, as far as people knowing kind of what was like the public knowing what was happening, or was that all stuff that came out after she left him?
That all came out after she left him.
Okay.
And don't forget, it was a much different time back then.
Was it still legal to beat your wife back then? Because I know that was legal for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, again, it happened behind closed doors. It's none of our business. I mean, if you watch the movie,
with Angela
What's Love
Bassett?
Got to Do with It, with
Yeah.
Angela Bassett, who does an amazing job. I mean, the inner circle of that band, they all saw it. They saw him beat her more than once. Her sons saw it. So, and when she left him, she had 37 cents on her. That was all she had. She had nothing. She ran out of a hotel where he had just beaten her up again and ran across the street. I think she was in Paris. And she said, I need a room. I don't have any money. I'm Tina Turner. And went on from there. Yeah. Just a remarkable life story and an incredible role model.
And just an incredible performer. So
Oh,
I have to be
God.
honest. The audio is not great, so we're not going to play it. But Lizzo at her concert last night, did a tribute to her, and I think multiple times said there would be no rock and roll without Tina Turner. And then she went on to do Proud Mary. And, as much as there's people who love to hate on Lizzo, and I just challenge anyone. I challenge anyone to do the dancing and the singing and the flute playing that Lizzo does with your cardiovascular health and do it. Just do it. Not even not even on key. Just do it and see if you can do it for 2.5 hours.
Without losing your breath. Right.
And I say this because my go-to karaoke song is Proud Mary. Because it's a song that you can do enthusiastically. Because when I'm not dancing, I can kind of hold it because it's in my range for the when you do it nice and easy.
Right.
But when you do it nice and rough and you start doing the dancing, I'm not on key at all, but I am very enthusiastic and there's a lot of jumping and dancing and twirling and stuff. But Lizzo did it last night and she was on key and she did dance and she was incredible. And so if you can find that video, Lizzo, Tina Turner, I would Google that if you would like to see it because she rocks it. And if you're lucky enough to ever see me do it in karaoke, you'll just laugh.
Well, and the physicality of what Tina Turner did and the other women that she worked with, it was remarkable. And she was well into her 50s and 60s when she was still dancing like that dancing in those heels and all of that. It was astonishing. She was amazing. Mick Jagger credited her for teaching him how to dance.
Really?
Yes. And he did tweet out a nice tribute to her, and because they met when they were very young.
Yeah.
And I believe Mick always said that if it weren't for Tina Turner, I wouldn't know how to dance like this.
Oh, that's funny to think about. Moves like Mick Jagger. Moves like Tina Turner should have been
Moves like Tina Turner, exactly.
All right. Well, sad, but certainly a life lived thoroughly.
Yes.
But all right. Well, when we come back, J.R. Radcliffe is going to be here. So we're going to get a sports update. We also have Brewers tickets for Sunday's game at 1:10. So if you would like to go to the game on Sunday at 1:10, give us a call. Well, keep listening. We're going to do it when we get back with JR. But that's it for now. Stick around for the top of the hour news, and we will be back at 1:06. This is As Goes Wisconsin.
What you lose, like all the truth.